grew up in country Victoria, a typical Aussie kid obsessed with sport. Basketballer Matthew Dellavedova is still that typical Aussie kid obsessed with sport. It's just that now other kids have his poster on their bedroom wall. A talented junior, his remarkable basketball IQ and his insatiable desire for self-improvement have seen him rise to the upper echelon of the US college game. And hold his own against the game's greats at the Olympics. And his journey is just beginning.
Dellavedova
Matthew's story,
for the win!
an Aussies Abroad special,
Gales win it!
starts now.
Why basketball? Well, my dad played basketball for Maryborough when I was younger, and Mum would take me up on a Friday night.
Matthew was dragged along at a very early age in a capsule, and Leanne used to do the cheerleaders at the local competition, so it was a real family.
It was.
A real family sport.
Matthew started playing when he was 4 and just loved being out there on the court.
I'd play on a Friday night and just be running around. I'm not sure if I was like shooting any goals or actually getting the ball, but I think I was just happy to be out there running up and down the court.
Did you play any other sports, or was it primarily just basketball?
I played soccer, tennis, Aussie rules growing up, a little bit of hockey, which didn't last too long after I got hit with the ball, but yeah, a bit of everything growing up.
Typical active Aussie kid.
Yeah, well, everyone, you just do whatever your mates are doing back home, so everyone was in a different sport, so that's what you do on the weekends and during the week.
So because of your family background, was basketball always sort of the #1 sport? Was always the priority?
Yeah, it was always the #1 sport.
What age were you where you had to sort of start to say, right, well, actually, it's time to get out of Maryborough now, I've got to go and pursue this dream?
I think I first probably heard about the AIS when I was maybe 14 or 15, and as soon as I heard about it, I thought that's a place I'd really like to go to. Playing state basketball for Vic Country, after that we got invited to some camps up at the AIS in Canberra, and then from that got offered a scholarship. So I was 16 when I went up to Canberra.
Matthew spends 3 years living, training and playing with the Australian Institute of Sport's elite junior squad and thrives on being around the game he loves 24/7. He spends time travelling with the Australian junior and senior teams, which helps shape his thoughts on his future beyond the AIS.
College basketball versus staying in Australia and, say, playing in the NBL. Why did you choose to come to the US?
I grew up watching college basketball on TV, and just the whole experience of that and just seeing the crowds over here was something that I wanted to play in front of.
He followed the college system at an early age and fell in love with it early. It was, part of his dream that maybe he could come over here and get an education, but also pursue and maybe advance his career.
St Mary's College of California has been watching Matthew's development as part of their relatively new Australian recruiting program, which has already successfully yielded the likes of Adam Capehorn, Daniel Kickett and Patrick Mills.
His competitiveness is what first attracted us to him. I thought he'd be a really good player, and I thought he'd be a guy that could contribute right away because he was such a good competitor and he was strong and he was really ready to compete.
I came on a visit and really loved the place, and just the general feel had something that I thought I wanted to go there.
Coach Bennett provides a really family-orientated program, and the school's not over big. We're from a small country town, so it just all fell into place, and he had some Aussie mates that were coming over with him, Geordie Page and Mitchell Young, and Clint Steinel was already here.
He was pretty well put together when he got here. Like, he was a very solid person. He knew he had his values in order. He wasn't immature at all. Super person. One of the big reasons we liked him, we knew that he was a rock. He's really solid, and we built our program around him because of that, because of how solid he is, his character, his leadership.
Who were your basketball heroes growing up as a kid?
Growing up, I mean, everyone looked up to Michael Jordan, but then for Australia, like Andrew Gaze was one that definitely looked up to, and then Steve Nash as well.
Is there a particular player over the years that you've modelled your game on, or you see someone play and think, oh yeah, I can see similarities? That's kind of how I would describe myself.
Not really, but you just try to take bits and pieces from everyone's game that you watch, and I've definitely tried to use a few things that Steve Nash uses, and just how he uses on-ball screens and things like that.
He's a bigger point guard, he's tough, he can post up smaller guards. I think he's like an excellent shooter, a tough defender, and like probably his greatest asset is like being a leader on the floor, you know, just knowing what position to get guys the ball in and how to run the team and drive the team.
When he was a little boy and played out on in the backyard with his grandparents, he'd be out there playing some sort of sport with them, or his cousins, or his siblings. He'd be directing the traffic, telling people where they should go.
In a nice way.
In a nice way, yes. You know, pointing. From a very young age, he would do that.
He's a really good point guard. He really knows how to just like control, as you said, control the tempo of the game, and he plays really slow, but he knows when to go quick, and he knows when to just slow it down, and he keeps his mind slow though. Even when he's going fast, his mind's going slow.
He understands the team that he's playing with. I think just watching him, as I've done for a few years now, he just knows who needs the ball when and how to get to the basket, and I think he's just really reads the game well and understands his team.
He's obviously a talented scorer, but he'll have games where he won't score the ball much, but he'll have like 10 assists, and it's because he's trying to find the exact way for us to win the game.
It's definitely a catch-22. You have responsibilities outside your own performance, and you know, obviously the way the team's functioning on the floor, you're an extension of the coach. I think the first thing about it, you've got to do it your own way a little bit. Each point guard has a different personality and game style, so you have to find a balance in that stuff. And it just so happens that is Delly's strength, and we saw that against Harvard in a game where he didn't shoot the ball very well, but he found a way to help his team win. We joke here on the coaching staff that, you know, when he graduates, we'll find out if we can coach or not.
Ahead on Aussies Abroad, Matthew realises a lifelong dream of representing Australia at the Olympic Games.
I don't think it really felt real that I was going to the Olympics till we walked in for that opening ceremony. That's when it really hit me that, you know, it's actually going to happen.
And what was that like?
Well, the opening ceremony was probably one of the best moments I've had or experienced. It was, yeah, just sort of gives me goosebumps thinking about it now.
Aussie basketballer Matthew Dellavedova starts every game in his freshman season at St Mary's. Delly stepping straight into the void left by the early departure of fellow Aussie guard Paddy Mills to the NBA. Matthew acquits himself superbly as the Gales make it all the way to the March Madness Sweet 16. His impressive rookie year, a sign of things to come.
To get to this level, you have to be a pretty hard worker, but he's above and beyond. He studies everything. He studies the game, he studies leadership, he studies work ethic. So he understands what he needs to be working on, how hard he needs to be working. The fact that he does that is the reason he has improved from his freshman year to his sophomore year to his junior year to his senior year. Not everybody does that. He doesn't leave anything up for grabs. He makes sure he dots every I, crosses every T. He's about as close to any guy I think I've ever coached that gets everything out of what he has.
He's very driven. He's always trying to improve himself and get better today, and I think get better every day. And I think that comes out in his passion on the court and just how hard he plays. He has that drive inside him to keep improving, and every year he's just taking it to another level.
That's what drives him, is he wants to be the best. He wants to be as good as he can be. He realizes what your mentality needs to be to try and be the best. So whether it's leadership, whether it's diet, whether it's work ethic, whether it's weights, whatever, he's going to study every one of those areas to get to be as good as he can be.
Competitiveness to like a freakish level. Everything's at an intensity that's more than everyone else's. He has a certain intensity and a sincere urge to win that he'll really do anything for it.
He makes his team better in ways that a lot of people wouldn't really know. Off the court, challenging guys, helping the team get together, you know, cooking meals, whatever it is.
He'll do anything to get better, anything and anything to win.
Where does your drive come from? Everybody we speak to about you marvels at your work ethic and the fact that you're desperate to get better every single day. Where does it come from?
I don't know, not too sure, but...
Is it something you've always had?
I think so. Watching like what my mum and dad do, they're both extremely hard workers, so I think that's probably their example. It's kind of been the formula I've used sort of growing up, like if I want something bad enough, I'll work hard enough for it.
Which is a stronger emotion for you, your love of winning or your hatred of losing?
I'm not sure, they're both pretty strong. But I think like the win on New Year's Eve when Youngie sunk those free throws, that was a pretty special win in our time at St Mary's.
The boys tell me that you're ultra competitive in everything you do. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's probably pretty fair, yeah.
Where do you get that from, mum or dad?
I think a bit of both. Probably mum's more quietly competitive, but anytime we're playing a board game or anything at home, you can tell she wants to win pretty badly as well, so I think that both of them are pretty competitive.
How are you different as a player now than when you were 4 years ago? Or are you different as a player?
I think just knowing the game better, I think that's probably the main thing as a player, and then like skill-wise, I think I'm a better shooter. But I am a better shooter because we always do like shooting numbers, and I've improved in that. And just playing off pick and rolls, and I think I've got quicker as well since I've been over here.
The whole college experience from a basketball perspective, what's the benefit to basketball? What is it that makes you better than say staying in Australia and spending the last 3 or 4 years maybe playing in the NBL or local basketball or something like that?
I think there's sort of positives and negatives to both. I think if you play in the NBL, you're playing against men all the time, so I think that could help you develop as well. But the chance to sort of lead the team here the last couple of years, I think that has helped sort of speed up my development.
He's really grown leadership-wise. I think he's grown in understanding himself. Like, I think he's more patient with himself, and that's all part of growth. Early in his career, he could, when it wasn't going well for him, he could let that eat at him and make things worse before they got better. But he's learned to let things go a little bit. He doesn't like to fail or not do his best, but he's gotten better at just taking a step back and refocusing.
He's matured a lot. He hasn't changed as such. He's still our boy, Matthew. He's still a very good person, and he's become a better person, I'm sure, from all the experiences that he's encountered. We see him grow on the court, which is really like inspiring for us too.
He's a natural leader too, I mean, he's really got that gift given to him. He's really vocal, and at the same time he leads by example.
His confidence to lead and to make others better, it's sort of I think it's an area of the game that doesn't get discussed enough, and a lot of people don't necessarily understand. And
You're a hell of a player.
He just improves there rapidly, and his influence on this team and this program is much more than basketball.
Matthew's continuous improvement right throughout his college career nets him a swag of individual awards, including West Coast Conference Player of the Year and various All-American honours. But it is his selection into the Boomers team for the 2012 London Olympics that really makes the Australian basketball public sit up and take notice of this next generation wonder kid.
When I was home this time, I looked through some of my old school stuff, and it was year 2000, grade 4, and we'd done some Olympic stuff, and it was sort of cool to look back on to see before going to London.
So that was always the goal, to one day go play at the Olympics for the Boomers?
Yeah, to go to the Olympics was sort of one of my dreams since I was a little kid, ever since I first heard about it and watched it on TV.
Can you remember the moment when they said, guess what, you're going to the Olympics?
Yeah, I was in my room, it was a phone call, and I don't think it really felt real that I was going to the Olympics till we walked in for that opening ceremony. That's when it really hit me that, it was actually going to happen.
And what was that like?
Well, the opening ceremony was probably one of the best moments I've had or experienced. It was, yeah, just sort of gives me goosebumps thinking about it now. Walking through the tunnel with the rest of the sort of Australian Olympic team, and you can see out into the stadium a little bit, and then as you walk in, it just opens up to this big stadium, and there's sort of camera flashes going off and things like that, and you sort of do the lap, and it was pretty awesome.
Ahead on Aussies Abroad, Matthew prepares for the next chapter of his basketball journey, going pro.
You mentioned you'd love to go and play in the NBA. Do you think you're good enough?
I think so. I know I have to get a lot better first, but I think I can play there, and I think that comes from playing during the summer. I think I can play against and with those kind of players, but time will tell.
It's July 2012, and 21-year-old Australian basketballer Matthew Dellavedova realises a lifelong dream of representing his country at an Olympic Games when he takes to the court for the Boomers' opening match against Brazil.
As soon as they tossed that ball up in the air and tipped off, and you thought, well, okay, you know, Matthew's now an Olympian. So that was sort of like relief, but yeah, you know, I think we all teared up a little bit at that point.
Yeah, the atmosphere in the stadium, and yeah, just to see Matthew run out, his name being called out, and that was a dream come true for him, so we were really proud of him and very excited for him.
Matthew acquits himself well in Olympic competition, starting all 6 games and averaging 7 points, 4 rebounds and 5 assists. His 7 rebounds in the quarter-final against Team USA, a tournament high. Like Paddy Mills before him, Matt's ability to handle the big occasion and perform against the best players in the world while still a college player makes him a standout prospect for watchful scouts.
Who were you most thrilled to play against?
Well, obviously, I think the USA team, looking back on that, it was, and like sort of watching the NBA now, it was pretty, like, it was a good experience to play against them and see what they're like up close and trying to guard them.
And what were they like up close?
They're pretty physical, fast, and just smart. You can tell by playing against them that all of them are just sort of, they've got some tricks up their sleeve and things like that.
So did you come back from the Olympics a better player?
Yeah, I think so. Playing against men that are smart and know the game, I think just playing against them and even practicing with our team, you just get better from that.
Did that take you by surprise how successful he was?
Yes. I thought he'd be able to contribute. I didn't know that he'd go in there as a starter and be a leader for that team and play as well as he did. He's playing with guys that 6, 7 years older than him that have a lot more pro experience, and so yeah, I think it surprised everyone except for probably Matt.
It must have been a source of great pride for you to see that Australian side run out, and there's Paddy Mills alongside Matthew Dellavedova, 2 guys that you've had plenty to do with, both out there representing their country.
They didn't only play for it, they were starting backcourt and played well. The only time I've ever rooted for somebody else other than our country in a game, so I was pumped to see how well they did.
Has it made him a better player?
Oh, for sure.
In what ways?
He played against the best guys in the world. So there's nothing that can build confidence like that. Having success playing against the best. That's how you get true confidence. And he has it. He'll always have it. He'll always know that he can play against the best.
He improved his foot speed. He worked a lot of his agility, his ability to guard the ball the length of the court, and I thought that showed at the Olympics. Guarded some great international players and NBA players and did a good job. His leadership just continues to grow, and he's improved as a shooter this year. He's increased the speed of his shot and he's shooting a really good percentage.
Dellavedova feeling it, good!
Talk us through where Matthew sits of all the guys that you've coached over the years in terms of his overall basketball IQ and his ability to control the game.
An NBA scout came and watched us practice, and afterwards I met him and was talking to him. He said, "Hey, you're committing an NCAA violation." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, you got too many coaches on your staff. So what are you talking about? He said, you got an extra coach on that floor. And he's right. Like Matt is, he's a coach when he's out there on the court. That opposing coach is competing against Matt. His drive to be the best is carried over and helped his basketball IQ. There's not a guy with a higher basketball IQ that I know of in the country as far as a college player.
That's just something that he has, and it's funny even thinking about it. Just some bushy kid from Victoria that was born with such like a genius for basketball, you know.
He's just got a natural knack, you know, and a knack for basketball. He actually is really strong though, that's the thing. Like, he doesn't look strong, but on the court he really is strong.
He doesn't look like your typical athlete that can jump like above the rim or anything like that. He just works so extremely hard and on defense, offense, and just has that confidence about him that he knows what he's doing. He takes control of the whole game.
As it gets harder, people know who you are, they know your game, they try and shut you down. He's embraced that, and every year he's taken his game further and improved.
You mentioned you'd love to go and play in the NBA. Do you think you're good enough?
I think so. I know I have to get a lot better first, but I think I can play there, and I think that comes from playing during the summer. I think I can play against and with those kind of players, but time will tell.
What sort of areas do you need to improve on?
I think just trying to get quicker defensively, and then working on my ball handling, getting that a bit tighter, and then improving as a shooter. So a fair bit to work on, but we'll see.
Where's Delly at now on his growth curve, do you think? How much more improvements he got to go in what areas?
He continues to improve every day. He adds things to his game. He's really improved his three-point shot, and I think he'll continue to do that, you know, especially if he gets a chance at the NBA, which we hope he does. Shooting that extended three, I think he'll do a good job there. And I think as he gets older, you know, point guards, I would usually say, mature later than other players, and his ability to run a team and control the game and stuff like that, which is already very high, will only continue to improve. You know, I don't see anything getting in his way. He's so determined to get better each day.
He's done the best thing he can, and he's gotten better every year. He won't be able to be his best until he goes to the next level. He's ready for that next step. He'll get to play against the best. You don't want to make a comparison with Steve Nash, but Nash was a little bit like that. In college, he's a good player. He's very similar to Matt. You wouldn't have known Nash was going to turn into Nash. But when he got a chance to compete against those guys, he just kept getting better. He kept studying it, kept working at it. And I think Matt is the combination of things, that basketball IQ, the leadership, the work ethic, the drive.
Matthew has surprised a lot of people along the way where they said, you know, this is, you know, where you'll get. And, you know, every time he's had a new challenge thrown in front of him, he's been able to meet that challenge. So who knows, I suppose if history keeps true, hopefully he can keep meeting the challenges that's thrown ahead of him in the next 12 months and hopefully achieve his next dream.
This is one of the better stories. I don't know if anybody knew that Matt would come in here and do what he's done, and even as a freshman, you wouldn't have known he was going to do what he's doing as a senior. Be player of the year in our league as a junior, go in the Olympics and be a starter for Australia and play well. I think if people said they knew that was going to happen, not sure they're remembering where they thought Matt was as accurately as they can. He has proved a lot of people wrong.
I think a little motto has been, you know, he always said, you know, he's got to remain true to himself. So just keep working on the things that have got you there. Don't get distracted with the, you know, the peripheral stuff. You know, just, you know, you got to keep working hard. You know, that doesn't change whether you're playing, you know, there or there. You know, you've just got to remain true to yourself, get your hands dirty and work hard.
You've been around some really, really good college players throughout your career. Where does Delly sit on that list?
At the top. I've played against some good ones, but right now Delly's doing something really impressive, and if you went by the numbers, the things he's doing at St Mary's are probably ranking up there, or if not number one. I mean, there's been so many great players. I mean, Paddy Mills is the obvious other one. Daniel Kickett had a great career here, but in terms of all college basketball and players I've been around, and Delly's right up there.
Have you surprised yourself at how successful you've been? The fact that you've been to the Olympics already at such a young age, and that you've had a great college career here, and now you're potentially looking at going somewhere like the NBA. Has that come as a surprise to you at how it's all come together, or is it always part of the grand plan and you're not surprised in the slightest?
I wouldn't call it a grand plan, it was more of a dream plan to sort of, like a dream goal to go to the Olympics, and then like the next sort of dream goal was to play in the NBA. I've had those goals kind of written down, and sometimes I look back and just look at when I was playing juniors in Maryborough and then for Bendigo, and how, I guess, lucky I've been that things have turned out how they are.
You can't ever count him out, and that's why I tell people, he's gotten better. Don't count him out, he's not done getting better.
Dellavedova pulls up, answers.
I've never seen a player at this level with that good of a basketball IQ.